If you look at your life and your life sucks, there is a 99.999% chance that your thinking is habitual. If I take a snapshot of the thoughts that you have on a day, and I take a snapshot over 100 days, what I will see will be very different.
Dr. K emphasizes that most of our thoughts are habitual patterns, or vasas, which strongly influence our experience of life. These mental habits are not accurate reflections of reality, but echoes of past conditioning. This habitual thinking traps people in cycles of suffering, limiting their ability to respond freshly to present circumstances. Breaking free from these patterns is essential for transformation and exceptional living. Cognitive behavioral therapy works by helping people identify and alter these habitual thought patterns, demonstrating the scientific basis for this concept. Dr. K also highlights that habitual thinking is why information alone rarely changes behavior. True change requires breaking these ingrained mental habits. This insight underscores the importance of mindfulness and contemplative practices that cultivate awareness and disrupt automatic thought cycles, enabling individuals to reclaim control over their attention and, consequently, their lives.
So the biggest problem with Western science is that it doesn't work for people. I know that sounds weird, but literally what I mean is when we do a study on neuroscience, we're learning about the average brain. We're not learning about your brain.
Dr. K identifies a key limitation in Western science. It studies averages and general principles, which do not always translate effectively to individual human experience. This necessitates clinicians to tailor treatments to each person, as science alone cannot fully capture the uniqueness of an individual's brain or mind. Conversely, Eastern contemplative traditions provide direct internal observation tools, meditation and self-inquiry, that allow individuals to explore their own minds firsthand. However, these practices lack external verification and can be difficult to assess objectively, leading to confusion about which methods work best for whom. Additionally, the absence of referral systems or personalized guidance in many spiritual traditions means many practitioners may follow unsuitable paths, leading to frustration or abandonment of practice. Dr. K advocates for integrating the strengths of both traditions, the scientific rigor and personalization of Western medicine, with the experiential, self-directed tools of Eastern spirituality.
So you mentioned Vidya and Jnana, and I think it's a fantastic thing to start with. So these are both words that get translated as knowledge in some way, but I would say that Vidya is information and Jnana is understanding.
Dr. K draws a crucial distinction between Vidya, information, and Jnana, understanding. Vidya is objective, transmissible knowledge, facts and data that can be shared and verified externally. Jnana, on the other hand, is subjective, experiential understanding that cannot be directly transmitted from one person to another. While Western culture heavily values Vidya, it is Jnana that truly transforms behavior and life. For example, simply knowing that wasabi is spicy, Vidya, does not change your experience until you taste it, Jnana, which creates an irreversible shift in perception. This highlights why reading books or listening to lectures often fails to produce deep change without direct experience. Dr. K explains that spiritual practices and contemplative methods aim to cultivate Jnana, enabling profound internal shifts that lead to lasting transformation. The challenge lies in facilitating the transition from information to understanding, which requires personal experience, attention, and often guidance.
And the one thing that I always found shocking is that you as a human being have one resource, which is your attention. So what's happening is the more we use technology, the more our mind becomes weakened in terms of focusing.
Dr. K stresses that attention is the single most valuable resource a human possesses. However, modern technology, especially social media and digital devices, hijacks and fragments our attention, weakening our capacity for sustained focus. This attentional loss contributes to widespread increases in anxiety, depression, loneliness, and other mental health crises. The compulsive need to avoid boredom drives people to seek constant stimulation, often through platforms designed to capture and monetize attention. This creates a vicious cycle where individuals lose control over their minds and lives. Reclaiming attention through focused practices like meditation is essential for reclaiming one's life and well-being. Dr. K recommends practices such as tritaka, candle gazing, to train and strengthen attention, offering a sensory anchor that contrasts with the fragmented, externally driven focus fostered by technology.
So here's what happens. When you attain a certain state of consciousness, and by a state of consciousness, we can describe this as well. It starts with a one-pointedness of the mind, right? So if you look at our general experience, our mind has lots of thoughts, lots of emotions.
Dr. K outlines a progression of meditative states beginning with one-pointed focus, dharana, moving through flow states, and culminating in samadhi, a state of profound absorption characterized by ego dissolution and bliss. Neuroscientifically, these states correlate with changes such as deactivation of the brain's default mode network, which underlies the sense of self. Psychedelic experiences that induce ego death similarly show clinical benefits, highlighting the overlap between spiritual and neurological mechanisms. Dr. K also discusses endogenous DMT production as a possible biochemical correlate of deep mystical states. These experiences radically transform one's relationship to self and the world, offering freedom from habitual mental patterns and suffering. However, samadhi is typically temporary, and the path involves repeated practice and integration. The bliss and knowledge gained in these states are central to the concept of enlightenment.
So shadow work moves us from 0 to 50. It's about reintegrating the parts of ourselves that we lopped off in order to get as far as we have.
Dr. K describes spiritual development as a sequential process where shadow work, facing and integrating disowned or suppressed parts of ourselves, moves a person from a dysfunctional baseline, 0, to a healthier state, 50. This involves acknowledging emotions and traits previously denied or walled off to conform to societal or familial expectations. The ego, or ahamkara, creates separation and attachment, often blinding us to our true nature. Spiritual progress beyond shadow work requires loosening the ego's grip, cultivating equanimity, and eventually transcending identification with the self. Dr. K also highlights the paradox of ego in spirituality. The ego of having no ego can be a subtle trap, manifesting as spiritual pride or superiority. True growth involves ongoing awareness and humility, recognizing that egoic patterns can reemerge in new forms.
9% of the karma that you and I do is mental. So if we think about what the theory of karma is one thing. It's scientifically verified, by the way. Cause and effect, that's it. They're like, hey, causes have effects. And also, all effects have causes. There's a chain of causality. This is a fundamental feature of existence, right? Which I don't think is like a scientifically wild statement.
Dr. K explains karma primarily as mental cause and effect, emphasizing that most karma arises from habitual mental patterns, vasas. These are neural pathways formed by repeated thoughts and emotions that shape our experience and behavior. The mistaken belief that our thoughts reflect reality traps us in cycles of suffering. Breaking these mental habits is essential for spiritual growth and life transformation. Karma is not just about external actions, but also about internal attachments and reactions. Dr. K stresses that attachment, whether to praise, blame, or outcomes, is the root of karmic bondage. True freedom involves acting without attachment to results, cultivating equanimity, and responding to life with presence rather than reactivity. This nuanced understanding bridges spiritual teachings with psychological science, offering practical pathways to reduce suffering.
So the first thing about dharma is that if you look at doing something difficult in life, dharma is what allows you to do difficult things. So the reason dharma is important is that if you live a life of self-gratification, your capacity to do things is very restricted.
Dr. K articulates dharma as one's duty or the motivating force that enables enduring hardship and embracing responsibility beyond mere self-gratification. Living solely for pleasure restricts growth and freedom, while dharma provides a deeper purpose that sustains effort through challenges. He distinguishes dharma from shoulds, which are external societal pressures, emphasizing that authentic dharma arises from within once one sheds conditioned expectations. Discovering dharma involves quieting the mind and sensory distractions to hear inner impulses that are neither wants nor shoulds, but genuine feelings of alignment. Living in accordance with dharma often initially feels boring or painful, but ultimately leads to greater fulfillment, success, and ease in life. Dr. K highlights that Dharma expands options by freeing one from the constant pursuit of pleasure and fear of pain, allowing a more harmonious and meaningful existence.
So to know thyself is to not know anything outside of you. To know thyself is to sit with that which has no object but still exists. So you're not your body, because I can take a piece of your body off and you'll still be you. You're not your mind. Your mind changes over and over and over again.
Dr. K presents the self as the unchanging subject of experience, the pure awareness that persists beyond the transient body and fluctuating mind. This core self is the constant experiencer that cannot be objectified or fully known as an object. He points out that all attributes we commonly identify with, body, mind, profession, are impermanent and mutable. The essence of who we are is this capacity for subjective experience itself. This perspective aligns with many Eastern philosophies that distinguish the witnessing consciousness from the contents of consciousness. Dr. K also notes that near-death experiences and revival cases provide empirical evidence that consciousness may continue beyond clinical death, challenging materialist assumptions. Understanding and abiding in this unchanging self is central to spiritual awakening and true self-knowledge.
So I don't think it's either or. So I think there are neuroscience mechanisms of intuition. I think this is a failure of language. So I'd say there's two types of intuition. There's the neuroscience intuition and there's the spiritual intuition.
Dr. K distinguishes between two types of intuition, one explained by neuroscience as subconscious pattern recognition and another as transcendental knowledge, direct knowing that transcends logical inference. The former arises from the brain's processing of sensory and contextual information below conscious awareness, such as sensing tension in a room without explicit cues. The latter is a deeper, inexplicable knowing often described in spiritual traditions as insight or revelation. Cultivating this transcendental intuition involves practices like Agna Chakra meditation and Tritaka, which open a conduit to cosmic consciousness or Brahman. Dr. K shares that such practices have enhanced his clinical abilities, allowing him to perceive subtle aspects of patients beyond conventional training. This dual understanding bridges scientific and mystical perspectives on intuition, highlighting the value of both empirical and experiential knowledge.
So here's kind of what we do know. Experiences of samadhi radically transform your relationship with yourself and your relationship with the outside world. So there are certain practices that you can do which will accumulate spiritual energy.
Dr. K explains enlightenment as a dynamic process involving repeated experiences of samadhi, deep meditative absorption characterized by bliss, freedom, and profound knowledge. Samadhi is typically temporary, lasting moments to minutes, and involves ego dissolution and a radical shift in self-perception. Enlightenment or moksha is described as a permanent state of such awareness, experienced moment to moment without interruption. The path involves accumulating spiritual energy, shakti, through disciplined practice, which eventually leads to sustained states of awakening. Dr. K notes that while samadhi can transform one's relationship to self and world, widespread enlightenment could paradoxically lead to societal changes such as reduced procreation as attachment and karma drive life cycles. He also highlights the challenges of integrating these states into daily life and the rarity of fully enlightened beings in the public eye.